Friends, before telling you today's horror story, I want to tell you an interesting fact. 80% of the people who watch our stories enjoy our videos, but they haven't subscribed to our channel yet. This is the only thing you have to do, and if you feel like it, then press the bell icon also, so that as soon as our latest video comes, you get to know about it first. This story is about a very beautiful village in South America named Los Llanes in 1980. There is greenery and fields all around. Near one of those farms, a boy named D Maso was staying at his uncle's house during the holidays. These days, people often went to sleep early, so everyone went to sleep after eating in the evening. D Maso lay down on the bed but was unable to sleep. He was just looking at the fan on the ceiling. Then suddenly he heard a very loud sound of animals. He got up and went outside. He saw that the sound was coming from an animal shelter nearby where there were a lot of cows. D Maso looked at the sky, and the entire sky was covered with dark clouds. He thought that maybe all the cows were scared of the coming storm, so he decided to take the cows to the stable inside. He went to them and with great difficulty started taking the cows one by one to the inner stable. But D Maso had never seen the cows so restless. Due to this restlessness, it was becoming difficult for D Maso to take them from there. Heavy rain had also started. With great difficulty, when he sent some of the cows from among the many cows to the inner stable, he started getting a very foul smell of meat. As he was sending more cows inside and the number of cows was decreasing from there, the smell was increasing. When only 5 or 6 cows were left, he saw that the blood-stained bones of an old cow were lying there. Seeing this, D Maso froze there and started shouting loudly. But before he could run away from there or do anything, he heard a voice from a distance. Amidst the heavy rain, that voice coming from miles away was so terrifying that D Maso shuddered on hearing it. And on hearing it, D Maso understood that he was going to die today, because that voice was of El Silbón's whistle, which meant that El Silbón was coming to him. D Maso had heard many stories of El Silbón. He remembered how in his childhood his relatives used to tell the story of a man who had encountered El Silbón. According to the story of his relatives, that man was also going to a function on his horse late at night from a similar field, when the horse's leg got hit by something in that big forest field. When that man got down and looked, there was a deer bone lying there, from which the eaten meat was still hanging. Before the horse rider could understand anything, he heard a soul-stirring whistle from a distance. He tried to get his horse up, but it was too late. He heard the sound of something big jumping on a tree some distance away from him. That gore rider wanted to run away from there, but just then a bone hit his head with great force, due to which his head got split. That gore rider started screaming and asking for help, but it was of no use because a terrifying 19 feet tall man was standing in front of him, looking like the face of death with a hat on his head. But his body and face were like that old skeleton. As if it was death, that horse rider had never seen such a horrible creature. He had a sack full of bones, and taking out the bones from that sack, he started hitting the horse rider without stopping. The horse rider kept begging for his life, but that man started taking out bones from his body and eating them. Next morning, while grazing the cows, some villagers found not the horse rider but his dead body, which had turned into a skeleton. It is said that that 19 feet tall skeleton-like man is El Silbón, and he keeps wandering in that area even today. This story was going on in D Maso's mind, and before he could run away, suddenly he fell on the ground. but a 19 feet long shadow appeared, and then a man even taller than that shadow came out, who was wearing a straw hat and whose body was cut from all sides and his flesh was hanging from it. This man, taller than 19 feet, was none other than Silbón. That man started walking towards him with a sack on his back from which blood was dripping. The sound of the bones clashing was getting louder and louder, then that was the beating of D Maso's heart. To save him, D Maso ran away from there, and he realized that Silbón was chasing him by climbing trees and jumping from one tree to another. D Maso kept shouting, but Silbón was right in front of him. He came and stood there, extending his scary long hands on which his own chopped flesh was hanging towards him, and tried to kill him. Just then he heard a dog barking. Hearing this, Silbón came running in fear and disappeared somewhere in the air. When D Maso looked, his pet dog was barking there, who had probably come there after hearing D Maso's shouting. D Maso himself believed that if his dog had not been there that day, then D Maso's bones would also have been in the bag hanging on Silbón's back. After that night, D Maso kept on thinking about Silbón. He asked his relatives and other people living nearby about Silbón's story. Then who told him he told that what happened to him was much more scary than that. People told him that the story of Silbón was absolutely true, according to which a spoiled boy lived with his small family in that area in the 18th century. Since the boy was the only child of that family, his parents and grandfather used to listen to everything he said. One day the boy asked his father to bring deer meat for dinner, after which his father went out to hunt with his hunting rifle and a sack. When his father did not return home for a long time, the boy became very angry. His mother gave the boy a very sharp kitchen knife for his protection. He gave his father to his mother and told him to go and find his father in the jungle and bring him back. When the boy returned, his father was not with him, but there were pieces of meat, some organs and bones in the sack, which he gave to his mother and told her to cook it, calling it deer meat. His mother found it strange to see the meat being cooked in the sack, and she started getting suspicious. So the boy's mother told her fear to the boy's grandfather. On hearing this, his grandfather took the boy out, tied him to a tree, and started hitting him hard with a hunter until the boy told the truth. A truth which was very horrifying. The boy told that when he found his father in the jungle. So he was empty-handed because he could not hunt the deer. That boy got very angry with him, and in that anger, that boy killed him with a knife that was lying with him, and with the same knife he removed his flesh and cut the rest of the body into pieces and filled them in his sack and came home. On hearing this truth, that boy's grandfather started beating him with a whip so hard that the flesh of that boy's body started hanging from his body with cuts. After that, his grandfather poured chili and liquor on his head, untied him from the tree, and put a big bundle of his father's flesh and bones on his shoulders, and left his 2 dangerous dogs behind him and left him to wander forever. It is said that after that day, the soul of that boy started wandering in the name of Silbón. Almost all the people living in that area believe that they have definitely encountered Silbón at least once, who sits on the trees and whistles in a unique way and attacks like an animal whoever roams in the fields late at night. It is said that he is only scared of dogs, and that is why people in all the houses of that area have kept dogs. D Maso was saved that night because of his dog. Otherwise, he too would have become the victim of Silbón today. Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon to get updates for all our latest videos.